Thank you, Lydia. Now we would like to turn to Senator Chuck Hagel of Nebraska, who recently spoke to the Turkish American community at an event commemorating Turkish Republic Day from the Russell Senate Office Building here in Washington. We had the opportunity to catch up with Senator Hagel before the event to get his perspective on the importance of U.S.-Turkish relations.
Since World War II, I don't think the United States has had a more valuable ally than Turkey. It has been the one indispensable ally for America. When you think of where Turkey is positioned, and think of 1952 when Turkey became a member of NATO, all the areas of common interests that converge for Asia, for Europe, for the Middle East, right there in Turkey. And all those common interests are common interests for America as well. It has been a dear friend, it has been a steadfast ally, and that relationship, the Turkish-American relationship, is going to be very important for the 21st century.
Now, let's view a portion of the Senator's speech.
Well, let me congratulate all who are here, and certainly the country and citizens of Turkey for soon a 85th anniversary of the founding of your country. That is a significant achievement, certainly the founding of any nation, but the sustaining of a great country, a great culture, a great people is even more of an accomplishment. And what Turkey has accomplished in 85 years, the position that Turkey holds in the world today, and I think reflected most recently by the vote of the United Nations to include Turkey on the Security Council. And that's just but one of many reflections of the confidence that nations and people around the world have in the people of Turkey, the leadership, and recognition of the importance of Turkey, not just geopolitically, where Turkey lies in the vast geography of our world. This relationship between the United States and Turkey, as I noted, goes well beyond just our two countries. It is a critical relationship for the world. The position that Turkey has put itself in by virtue of not just the geopolitical landscape, but the world that we live in today, is only a bridge, and has served in that capacity for many years between East and West, between Europe and Asia, between Europe and the Middle East. It is a cultural bridge. It is a social, economic bridge. It's a security bridge. It's a relationship bridge. And I know of no other location in the world or individual country in the world that plays such a role.
The Turkish-American community considers Mr. Hagel a close friend and appreciates his support in promoting U.S.-Turkish relations. We would now like to turn to Bruce Fine for a brief commentary on some of the key issues facing the relationship between the U.S. and Turkey, and how the presidential and congressional campaigns relate to key issues facing our community.
Today, I'd like to speak about an issue that's regularly in the newspapers. You probably heard about the PKK and their political arm, so to speak, called the DTP, or the Democratic Society Party, which commands about 20 seats in the Parliament of Turkey. And I want to explore what I think would be nimbleness that the Turkish laws right now lack, that could be utilized in trying to bring this very tragic clash to a peaceful end and a resolution of disputes through the peaceful political process rather than on the battlefield. There are two things that I'd like to disabuse the audience from the outset. First, the idea that the grievances of the PKK and those of the DTP against the government of Turkey are sufficiently grave and have been unbudgeable through the democratic process is simply false. There has been exceptional responsiveness through the Prime Minister, through courts, and through the Parliament in accommodating the desires of Kurds to have Kurdish on television, to have private instruction in Kurdish, to accommodate all of their uniqueness in the Turkish political system. We need to remember that Turkey is much like the United States, and that is a land of immigrants. There really is no such thing as an underclass of Kurds. They are represented in proportion to their numbers in the parliament, in ministries, in the judiciary, business, education, entertainment, education. And on that score, I think Turkey has done a marvelous job in assimilating Kurds to make them first-class citizens like others. Indeed, only 25% of Turkey's population is of pure Turkish ancestry, so to speak. And it is customary when you have grievances that you take them to the political process and ask for remedies. And only when you have a government, in the words of the United States Declaration of Independence, that has resorted to tyranny, is there ever a justification, if at all, to any kind of resort to arms. And we know the signature of the PKK is assassination, violence, and although they call their ambition autonomy, self-government, it really is secession, because they do not elaborate what continuing ties and controls the central government would have over these autonomous Kurdish areas of the country. At present, Turkey is involved in a constitutional litigation over whether or not the DTP, this is the so-called political arm or extension of the PKK, in the Turkish parliament should be banned. It's certainly not contrary to democratic practice to ban counter-constitutional, anti-constitutional parties. It's been done in Germany, it's been done in Israel, because the whole idea of a democratic process is to enlist those who agree to play by the rules of the game, freedom of speech, to accept decisions made through the ordinary courses of law as the vehicle for deciding disputes and making policy. And that, of course, idea is contradicted and makes democracy unworkable if you have a group that's bent on using the democratic process to destroy it, to resort to violence and impose their will on others by force of arms. There is a current challenge to the legality of the DTP in the Constitutional Court. It is said that they are supporting and are extensions of the PKK, and they certainly are openly sympathetic to the PKK's goals and ambitions. When there are any who are killed in the PKK ranks through their violence, they come visit the families, may perhaps even give them money from time to time. The Constitutional Court most recently has shown some flexibility between an all-or-nothing choice of either upholding a party or providing no sanctions whatsoever. And this came in a case concerning the ruling party, the AKP, in which the Constitutional Court said that their questioning of secularism wasn't sufficient to justify banning the party as contrary to the secularism that was enshrined by Ataturk in the Constitution, but it did justify a yellow light, if you will, a fine that would suggest that they ought to back off from some of their more frontal attacks on the secular tradition of Turkey. Now, in the United States, there are a whole host of vehicles for trying to address situations where you have a group that, although not directly engaged in violence, should be sanctioned because it's providing what's called material support to a terrorist organization like the PKK. One possible remedy is to freeze the assets of this particular group that's providing material support. Material support can be not only money, but training, propaganda, or otherwise. A second provision would not only freeze the money, but would provide actually a criminal trial for those who knowingly and wantonly provide encouragement through personal training and resources and money to a terrorist organization. These are ways in which you can sanction the particular group or individual without shutting down the political process by saying, oh, the party is completely banned, we don't even want their ideas out there. Because the idea of democracy at its heart is that noxious ideas should be defeated in the free marketplace of ideas, not by government compulsion or coercion. A third vehicle that the Turkish government, I think, should explore with regard to the DTP is to simply require that it openly publish and acknowledge where all of its funds are being received, where all of its funds are going to.